Hi, Saddleback family. My name is Matt. I get to serve as one of our youth pastors at our Lake Forest campus. I have a quick encouragement I'd love to share with us today. One of the things that I think we see in the life of Jesus that I love and admire a lot is the way that Jesus would draw away from the crowds. He would draw away from other people, his disciples, whoever was around, to go and just be with the Father. We see this over and over again throughout the Gospels that whenever there's a crowd around or his disciples were following him, he would just peace out and go, and nobody would know where he went, and he would go just to be with the Father. And there's just one example I want to read really quick, just one verse of this that we see. There's lots of examples, but Mark chapter 1, verse 35 says this: "Before daybreak the next morning, Jesus got up and went out to an isolated place to pray." And we see this like over and over again, right? Jesus would get up before everybody else, and he'd just disappear for a bit just to be with the Father. Right before COVID hit, I had the opportunity to travel internationally, which I know is a weird concept for us today, but I got to go to Israel with a group of people, and I got to tour around the Holy Land for a couple weeks, and it was an incredible experience. Highly recommend to any follower of Jesus, because the Bible just literally comes to life before your eyes. I got to stand in so many of the places that I read about since I was a little kid. But by far, I went to so many awesome places, but by far my favorite spot was the Sea of Galilee. And there's just so much that happened at the Sea of Galilee. This is where Jesus lived, and this is where he called most of his disciples. This is where many of the signs and the miracles and the healings that we see in the Gospels took place around the Sea of Galilee. I spent a few days there. I could have spent a few months there easily. It's such a peaceful place where I got to meet with Jesus so many times. But one of my favorite spots, probably my favorite spot at the Sea of Galilee, was this little cave on a hillside on one of the shores of the sea. And it's called Eremos Cave. And the reason it's called Eremos is because that word that we just read in here that said Jesus went to an isolated place to pray, that word isolated is a Greek word eremos. And this word can mean isolated, it can mean solitary, secluded, lonely, desolate. Interestingly enough, this is the same word that is used to describe that wilderness that Jesus is led to by the Spirit right after he gets baptized. If you remember that, he gets baptized, immediately led into the Spirit by the Spirit into the wilderness for 40 days, where he gets tempted. He doesn't eat anything. He gets tempted by Satan. But this word eremos means lonely, desolate, isolated, secluded. And this cave is called Eremos Cave because, according to local legend, this might have been, we don't know for sure, but it very well could have been that place that Jesus would get up to and draw away from the crowds to go spend time and just be with the Father. It was crazy. We got to go actually inside of this cave, which I have to tell you, it felt so uncomfortable sitting in this cave because I felt like I was intruding on Jesus' secret spot. And I didn't feel like I was worthy by any means, not even a little bit, to even be around there. But I had this thought. This thought came into my mind as I was sitting in this cave. I thought this for some reason. I bet Jesus prayed for me in this spot. I bet 2,000 years ago, he was praying for me. He was praying for you in this little cave on the shore of the Sea of Galilee. This was his secret spot. He would have prayed for us. And that night, as our trip leader, we were debriefing our trip. He gave us this challenge, and he said, when we go home, we need to set up our own Eremos place. We need to set up a place where we can draw away from other people. We can draw away from the craziness of our schedules and the busyness of life and all other people to just go and be with the Father. So that's what I did. As soon as I got home, I set up 2 Eremos places. One is this little chair I'm sitting on in my patio, my tiny little patio at my house. And this is a place where I often come by myself and I draw away just to be with the Father. And the second place is the beach. It's a little more general because there's been a lot of beaches over the last year or so. But that's another place where I can just go and draw away from people and just look out across the ocean at the endless horizon and remember that there's a God who created everything but also created me, and he longs to just be with me, which is incredible. So that's my question I want to leave you with is, do you have a place like that? Do you have an Eremos place that you can draw away from other people just to be with the Father? I think a lot of times we add a lot to the Christian faith and what it means to be a follower of Jesus. We make it a little bit more complicated oftentimes than it really is, because we have a God who really just longs to be with us. And he wants to be a good father and love on us and be connected to us. But oftentimes it takes us setting aside time and setting up a place that we can go and do just that. So do you have an Eremos place? And if not, what could it be? Love you, church.